Thank you for being here. Before I begin, I would like to say that Wilbur, will you please stand so that we can, Wilbur pastored this church for 18 years, and let's applaud. Thank you. That's right, and that's right, Mrs. Cheney. And I knew you as Candy in growing up, and so Candace now, But it is a beautiful picture because Wilbur really was a model for me as not only my parents, but also in the role of ministry. Wilbur was a model for me of a dad to his daughters and his children. So I want to start off by saying this. Would my daughter, Cherie, please come forward and take the hot seat right here? Did you not know that this was what do they call that? An intervention. Yeah. Oh. No, this is a roast. No, you didn't know that? No, I'm teasing. As I start off with this, I want you to know our heart in this, and that is the reason why we even have the pictures that are going to be, kind of slowly scrolling through, is so that you kind of get at least a visual background of the love that we have as a father and a daughter. And we set out to establish as parents nobody sets out to have a broken home. They just don't. I've done many, many weddings. Nobody sets out to do this. And you set out to have a perfect family. You set out to have that dream family. And Cherie was my first daughter and the first child. And as we grew, we have a little bit of an outline here that we're going to try to go by, and it may just jump all over the place. And what we want to accomplish is the fact that families aren't perfect. Families struggle. Dads struggle. The marriage struggles. There's things that go on in the home that nobody else knows about. And it's tough. And as your pastor, I want you guys to know that our family has struggles. We are just like everybody else out there. We are you. And we want you to know at the end of the day, at the end of this service, that God truly does make a difference. And that's why we're up here. Okay, how are we going to do this? We set out, and I believe that my kids had a wonderful childhood. They had this. Me being a pastor, and all of them were like church rugrats. That's what they did. They were church rats, is what we called them.
You still are.
Still are. That's right. And you'll see how that we didn't make church a problem. We didn't make church an issue. We didn't make church a thing where we need to protect our children or guard them in some certain way. We just said, these are our kids, and, we took them with us. I remember Justin would come to church with me every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, all the way up until I'm not sure how old he was when he stopped, if he did at all. My kids were like that. Your mom was a Sunday school teacher, and, we tried to have this beautiful, perfect home. And we believe that was being attained. Maybe you can share a little bit about your childhood.
Well, again, we grew up, our home church was Mountain View. So I was there since I was born till I was 12 years old. And I loved it there. It was home. We were very involved. My mom led all the children's programs. We grew immensely in numbers in the children's ministry there, and she was excellent at what she did. So we had Sunday school, VBS was amazing, and as children, we were always involved behind the scenes. We got to see how things were made, got to help set up, take down. We were always at the church, involved in the church as a lot. And I remember even not too long before we left Mountain View, even on like Sunday nights, my very first time being on worship team was Sunday nights singing up there by myself with my dad. I think it was you.
I sang?
I don't, I don't know if it was Dad or if it was somebody else, but I just remember being up there, my little 12-year-old voice, and it was fun. So we had a really, really good childhood. Yeah.
Yeah, and even other people would say, "Oh, you just have a perfect family," and all of that, and you felt that way. Because God was blessing, and God was doing some amazing things with, my 4 kids. Our family just kept growing. It doubled in one day, in fact. That's scary. As she was growing up, she was just this perfect girl. She really was. I mean, yeah, you got it. She really was my perfect daughter. There was even a CD that I got. You reminded me that this morning. I got it the last minute, but there was this song called "A Perfect Daughter," and I burned it to a CD, and I put her picture on it within it fading into another picture in the background with all of the lyrics down the side, and I gave it to her as a gift. She was just, everything she did, she's just perfect what she did. She loved God. She went to church. She went to a Christian school. Everything she stood for. She was excited about going to church. There's a lot of times when I grew up, it's like, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go sometimes, It's like, she just always wanted to go. It was at the first one at the door. You couldn't get her to leave. It's like, she was my perfect daughter. And I told her that all the time.
And a lot behind that, too, from my personality perspective, is I'm a people pleaser. I'm an introverted people pleaser. I like to do everything to the best of my ability. And I was always seeking my parents' not approval, but what did I write down? I'm not thinking of the word. But I always wanted their approval, their acceptance, or I wanted to please them. I wanted to, be proud. I wanted them to be proud of who I was and in everything that I did. And I think part of my personality is I didn't like to get in trouble at all. I mean, if I got in trouble, I never did it again. And
didn't you steal something one time?
Okay, I was 7. I stole from Bible Book House. Oh man, did I get in trouble for that. Yeah, that's enough about that. I couldn't lie to
Only
save
one
my
time.
life. I still can't. If you ask me a question, I'm just honest. I either won't say anything or I'll tell you the truth. I'm very transparent in who I am and in what I do.
And then that perfect picture that you wanted so bad, that you strived for. I mean, I prayed for this family that I always wanted to have, and I felt like we had that. And then it kind of came undone. Mm-hmm. And maybe this congregation has kind of heard my story a little bit. Maybe you can tell it from your perspective.
Okay, so what it started with me is when I was younger, and I noticed my mom and dad started fighting, and I would lie in bed at night just praying, Oh man, I didn't want to get emotional. Okay, praying that please God, don't let my parents get divorced. Please don't let them get divorced. And as time went on, slowly, and I actually remember reading this last night. I pulled some old journals that I wrote when I was younger. It was about 6 months later that my mom and dad pulled me and my brother aside and told us that they were getting divorced. I think I knew it was coming, so I didn't get really super emotional that night, but I remember how Justin reacted. And that was hard to see. And I was a 12-year-old girl, and any woman in the room will know what happens when you're 12, 13 years old. Emotions, hormones, you start becoming a woman. A lot of things go into that, and so there's all that involved. And then after my mom and dad separated, this third party family came into our lives, and that even magnified the difficulty of your parents separating a lot, because then you have somebody else coming in and telling them their 2 cents and making the other person not look very good, and which I can't imagine how hard that was for a parent having to let your child go somewhere else and then have them be constantly being told negative things about them all the time. And so there was that emotional struggle going back and forth from home to home. And so just kind of, I guess, a blanket summary of how that was. And so there was a lot of difficulty in there in that time in my life, being the oldest child, being very introverted. I kept a lot of my feelings inside, and I didn't talk about them a lot. I just wanted to be the one thing, I guess, that wasn't a problem.
Yeah, that was the undoing of our family at that time. The third party did come between, and I didn't know a lot of what you guys were going through. I just didn't know. Some of the things I could imagine, but other things I just didn't know. You hear about them later when you guys have grown up and they have the courage to kind of speak up. But as a dad and going through this, Cherie was amazing. She still remained that amazing, perfect daughter. And I saw her, she would go to youth camps, and she had her great friends, and she got baptized when I was a youth pastor at the Free Methodist Church, and I got to baptize her. And I got back involved in ministry, and they went with me to Vancouver when I pastored up there for a year. She was just amazing. Again, this just perfect daughter. And then she's growing up, and she's becoming, this older daughter. And boys started liking her. And that's tough on a dad.
Sorry.
Yeah. Now you tell me.
It's your fault.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, she had a couple boyfriends, and they're kind of like, you kind of go with the flow. And then her and Aaron met, and he's a great guy, and it was neat to see them together. But then there became, first of all, where's Aaron? I want to be able to see. Yeah, amazing. We talked before this. I want everybody to know that we talked, and he's not going to, storm the stage at all. But we talked and just asked him for permission to share some of these things, and he's amazing just on how he's so open with this. But we went through a difficult time with Cherie and I's relationship. Basically, let's say this, it became severed. And I, as a protective dad, you just want to protect your daughter. And I drew some lines, and I took some stands, and it wasn't popular, to say the least, especially with you. And so our relationship became severed, and that was really, really tough. It was really hard. And I don't think you can tell it from your perspective, it was really hard on me, and I didn't know how hard it was on you. I really didn't. I didn't know how to read you. And here's this amazing, we were incredibly close as a father and daughter. All of our lives, we were close. And then all of a sudden, it was like shut down. And I was the bad guy. and that closeness that we had was gone. And then, well, you can maybe tell your perspective.
Well, from the moment I met Aaron, I'll go back to our very first time. He played in a band. Okay, he played in a band. I don't like listening to my own voice. He played in a band, and he was a guitar player, a rock star. And anyway, it was actually the principal of the Christian school that I was going to. His son invited me to come over to practice, and it was in their basement. And I just remember sitting there and thinking to myself, that's the guy I'm going to marry. And I don't know why I knew. It was kind of weird. I just, what?
How old were you?
I was, I was 15 or 16. I think I was 16, because I got my license that year. So I was young, yes, but I was also, I don't know if Dad will agree, I felt I was mature for my age as well.
Moving right along.
A little bit. I was, though. I was. He even actually told me that at one point. But anyway, I did. I felt a very strong connection with Aaron. But as time went on and our relationship did become more serious, and as a dad who's being protective and wants the best for his daughter, he drew some lines, and he didn't necessarily want us to stay together. And me having such a strong connection with Aaron, I didn't like the stand my dad took, and I'm not condoning my behavior at all, or the way I handled the situation, because we had a lot of different factors involved with the divorce, this third-party family, feeding into the negativity that my negative feelings and my trying to figure out how I'm feeling and how I'm going to handle the situation just kind of amplified my wanting to distance myself from my dad. But I wasn't going to leave Aaron. I wanted to be with him. I loved him, and I knew that I loved him. And so I didn't know how to, I guess, communicate that in a healthy way with my dad, with all of our factors that were going on in our family life. I think I worded that okay.
Yeah, you did great. It's and she shared it. That's one thing about a conflict in a family, is you would like to be able to able to say that you just handled it great. Oh, it's just per textbook. I should write a book about this. No. In fact, everybody's the perfect parent until your children reach teenager. Or they become teenager, and that's a noun. And that is a species. It does change. But anyway, I didn't handle myself well. I tried. I felt like, a good illustration of this is you can take a stand for the right reason and not do it the right way. It's interesting. It was even though you really feel like you're trying and you want to, looking back on it, I wish I had done something different. But it was I would probably say this, it was an already on fire, fueled situation with a broken family, with a third party that's just feeding garbage all the time about who you are. And then all of a sudden, in the situation, you're just throwing gasoline on it, and it just blew up. And so the relationship that we had just came to a stop. And I remember people praying for me and praying for you. And I prayed for both of them. It was hard. I went to I fasted every Wednesday for probably about 3 to 4 months. Every Wednesday I just would not eat, and I would pray. For me, it was standing in the gap for your daughter. And so that was a tough part, and she didn't know that. She didn't. When we're getting together and we're meeting together for birthdays and Christmases, you want to put your love towards them, and your love for them doesn't change. It doesn't change at all. And so you put the best foot forward, and you smile, and you love, and you care, and that's kind of where I was. And I had felt that when they made their well, first of all, she turned 18, and then I came home one day.
I hardly remember what I said.
Well, you didn't. You just moved out.
Oh, well, I did. I said I wanted to go live with my mom, and so I pretty much, after I turned 18, I stopped going back and forth to my mom and my dad's, and then I just lived with my mom at the time.
Yeah. And then there was another thing. As a dad, you always wonder, okay, well, will you be able to, you will even be invited, to a wedding? Will you even, what's going on? And you guys, well, you can maybe tell that part.
Which one? Which part? Oh, I don't care. Well, okay, so after I moved in with my mom, Aaron's and I's relationship, grew and whatnot, and the third party that was involved in our family, they had left, and for a little while, Aaron and I together were living with my mom to save money, and before that, we had actually moved in. Actually, I'm jumping ahead. The third party was still living with my mom, and at that point, the relationship was already toxic, but I was realizing or coming to terms with the truth of how toxic that situation was, and I wanted out. And at the time, my dad's and I relationship wasn't good, and I wanted out of my mom's, and I felt like my only choice at the time, again, is not saying this was okay in any way, but Aaron and I decided to move in together. We were not married yet. We were not even engaged yet, but I felt like that was the only outlet I had at the time. And I was going to school, so I couldn't support living on my own by myself. I couldn't afford it. And when Dad found out about it, he also let me know how he felt about that.
I did it in a loving way, didn't I?
It didn't feel like it. But when you're a pastor's kid, you have like this immense pressure to also be that perfect family. And also, when you're a pastor's child, you feel like your pastor is also your dad, and also felt heavily judged for what I was doing, and that it kind of, and the way I was receiving it, not necessarily that's the way he intended it to be, but it kind of made me even more distant, because I was just like, okay, if I'm just going to be judged and I'm not going to, be accepted, then, what's the point? So.
We are being brutally honest, aren't we? And that's what we want. We want you to know exactly what we went through. And I appreciate that. Well, let's move along with this. Your wedding day, you had your wedding. I gave her away, and that was a beautiful time. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I felt like since they were together that basically we helped them out, but not as much as we would if they had done it what I would, you would see as the traditional way. Mm-hmm. And so, but I didn't really say a whole lot of that. We just kind of, cut you a check, however you're going to use it. And, it was just not what I wanted to necessarily be a part of, in a sense of how everything was put together. And so I figured, hey, here, this is my part, and have at it, with your wedding. And, but it was a beautiful day for you. It was a gorgeous, beautiful wedding. But I didn't realize, I thought by that time, Aaron and I, we were, fist pumping and saying hi, and we rebuilt our relationship to some extent, but it was never a close relationship after that. It was more of a, congenial, nice relationship, but it wasn't what we really wanted it to be, I think. And then Cherie and Aaron started going back to church, and I think that's one of the roots and the foundations that you had.
Mm-hmm. Aaron and I started going back to Mountain View. I drug him by his ear. It was actually great, because he actually signed up for worship team like the following Sunday, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think this is where really I wanted to get to, and that was, I talked to Danielle, and I said to Danielle that because I didn't get a chance to say this with you, our relationship had been severed 3 or 4 years in advance, and to be honest with you, you don't really sit down with your 16-year-old and say, hey, if you do it this way, I'm going to support you 100% all the way through. Well, so I talked to Danielle and Bryant, and I said, if you wait and don't move in together, and you guys wait it through, I'm going to take care of everything in your wedding, and we'll do it that way. And as the dad's part. And so anyway, went through the wedding, and then or Danielle and Bryant's wedding got snowed out on that bad winter of 2 or 3 years ago in December. What year?
January.
February. That's right, in February. And it what it was like in Salem. It was just they shut down the city that
rehearsal dinner.
Yeah, the rehearsal dinner was crazy. We ventured out in the snow. If you want to read, I posted an open letter. I should repost that this afternoon. An open letter to my daughter Danielle, because she's extremely sensitive. They're actually FaceTiming this up in Canada right now. What's going on right now? Yeah. And she's extremely sensitive, and I knew that when we got to that chapel that we had to shut it down. Their wedding wasn't going to happen that next day. And she just, it's your wedding day, and she's not going to have it. Oh, it's like the end of the world. And so I wrote on Facebook an open letter from dad to daughter. And then 2 weeks later, we had the wedding. Everything was fine. And then I get a phone call from Cherie. And she came over, and we sat down, and she opened up the conversation with, I read that letter, that you wrote to Danielle. And she said that hurt her so bad. Maybe you can share your...
And it didn't hurt me in the sense that that it was a bad thing, that what he wrote. It hurt. I was hurt when I read it because I saw how much love my dad had for my sister in the situation, and how sensitive he was to her, and in her wedding day. And I saw something that I didn't get when I got married. And as a girl, your wedding day is the most beautiful day of your life. You're going to marry the man you're going to be with, the rest of your life, and grow a family. And I should have reread the letter before today so I could remember exactly everything that was in it. But it immensely hurt just to see what I could have had, and I didn't get. And I felt like I forgot how I worded it the other day when I was talking to you. That she got so much more attention, and I'm not wording myself well. I don't remember how I said
What
it.
you said to me that evening, or that afternoon when you came over, was just, it crushed me as a dad. And she said, I can't believe I didn't realize how much I gave up. And at that time, I saw the pain in her eyes. And I saw how she was feeling. And at the time, I didn't know. I honestly didn't know. I thought I was written off. I thought you didn't care. And so I didn't know. So there's two worlds here. There's a world of a dad and what they're going through, what a dad goes through, and there's a world where your children are going through what they're going through. For them, it's real, and for you, it's real. It's just two different universes, basically, that are functioning. And I just didn't know, but when you see your daughter, it's probably one of the most painful things I had ever experienced as a dad is when she told me how she felt.
And it took a lot for me to build up the courage to do that, because that's not something that I would have been able to done prior to. Because actually that whole time that me and my dad weren't talking or getting along, that whole entire time I was actually longing for some type of affection or approval, or even just not necessarily approval, but acceptance of who I was, regardless of what point I was in my life. And even though he didn't know it, I'm not going to say, hey, Dad, I need your approval. I want you to accept me. It was more of, I just want him to want me. And I felt when I read that letter, I've hurt. Part of me was jealous, just naturally. I had regretted a lot of things. And again, I felt forgotten. I felt like I screwed up.
And I stopped saying to her that she was my perfect daughter. And that was hard on her. But we need to draw this to a close. But I guess what I want to say is this. I am extremely blessed as a dad. First, to have her as my daughter. And Aaron, I love you. And we got healing back in our family because of what you did coming to me. And I just didn't know. There's times where as a dad, you run out of answers. You wish you had all the answers, but you don't. You don't know what to do. Since then we talked. We were able to come together and say, you know what? I just didn't know what to do because I didn't want to infringe upon you. I wanted to respect your position. I felt like I was doing all of the right things. And so it's not like two people are upset with each other and hate each other, angry at each other. They just needed to be open and honest and communicate with each other because I love them. And since then, Aaron and I have grown closer. And I told Aaron this. I've been telling Aaron this. I am privileged to have you as my son-in-law. And the time that I prayed, I did honestly pray this. I said, Lord, I'm not praying to break them up. I'm praying for you to have your will be done. And I think we can applaud God for having his will be done and not ours in all of this. Love you. And we lived happily ever after.
He's a pretty awesome dad.
Do you have anything you want to say in closing?
I think something that I just want to say to parents and to kids and teenagers, be open and transparent with each other. You might not agree with each other, but it's okay to have an adult conversation about it. A lot of the times I think I was afraid to talk to my parents because I was afraid of judgment or reaction or because I was constantly seeking parent approval for everything that I did in my life. It was scary. And so parents, be the person that your kid can come to and trust that you're not going to freak out. Love them. Love them. Be transparent with them. And so they can be transparent and feel comfortable coming to you so that you guys can walk through it together and not push each other in the opposite way. And God's grace is amazing.
And one more thing I'd like to say is through all of this, Jill was an amazing, amazing wife. She kept the distance. She didn't involve herself into things. She didn't make things more difficult. She's just absolutely amazing through all of this. And she saw me go through a lot of this pain. And she could have made it worse for me, even, being stuck in the middle. And
yeah, Jill never treated any of us kids any different, and me throughout the whole process. I mean, we still came over for Christmas. They still, gave us gifts. She actually gave our old dad and her, but mostly Jill. She put it together like a little housewarming gift for Aaron and I when we moved in. That really actually shocked me. But she was always so loving and so gracious to us, even though we were not hers. But she accepted us like we were. So.
Happy Father's Day. Dads, I'll close with this and we're done. Dads, you do not realize how much your children look at you and how much they need you. And I didn't even realize it myself. So that's my spilling guts time, is just my failure in that aspect of it.
You're not a failure.
Let's close in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for the family unit that you gifted humanity with. And Lord, it comes in all different shapes and sizes. It comes with brokenness. It comes with wholeness. It comes with a severed relationships. It comes with dealing with abuse. It comes with rejection. It comes with all of the junk that this world has to offer. But Lord Jesus, in all of this, there is grace. There is God's love. There is peace. There is all of that when we're anchored in you, Lord. And I thank God for all 5 of my children who love you. And I do not deserve that as a dad. But I enjoy it. In Jesus' name. And all God's people said amen. Happy Father's Day. Enjoy your fellowship.